And this session is being recorded for later posting on the PAL YouTube channel. So I'd like to welcome you once again back to our Spring into Summer series, which started in May last month and will continue to the end of this month. We're actually probably going to have a couple of presentations spilling into early July because of some late programming, as well as some rescheduling of other of another presentation. So just to let you know about that. And today's presentation will be by Scott Walker, who we welcome today. Thank you, Scott. Scott is with the Canadian Senior Artists Resource Network, and the title of his presentation will be How Canada's Cultural Game Changers Break New Ground in Senior Years. And I'm sure you'll find his session very informative in the work that you do as you continue forward in each of your careers. So without any further ado, let's give a warm applause to Scott.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. It is my absolute pleasure to be here. And I noticed that Sharon has already started the questioning by saying, who are Canada's cultural game changers? I'm going to get to that in just a moment. First thing I want to do is share my screen because I have something to show you, except I noticed that it is... it's in the wrong place. Okay. There we are. A little musical interlude, which I will be playing again when it's more appropriate. I hope you can all see and hear my screen here. Just to tell you that it is my pleasure to be here this afternoon, not only as CSARN's Executive Director, but also as a member of the PAL Toronto Board of Directors. I'm delighted to be here and so happy to hear the news, which I heard recently, about your letter of understanding about getting a building in Ottawa. That is very, very exciting news. And I know everybody on the PAL Toronto board was really, really thrilled to hear that news as well. I just wanted to show you just briefly that I have also spent most of my career as an artist in theater, on radio, in the recording studio, clubs, and on film. I've been the executive director of CSARN for about 6.5 years now, but I continue to keep my hand in the performing side of my career as well. And if you're wondering about the Hinterland Who's Who in the bottom right corner, that is actually a YouTube video that I narrated a few years ago called Spiders on Drugs, which has more than 50 million hits right now. It's become something of a cause célèbre. I'd like to open things up by sharing with you one of my favorite quotes. Famed cellist Pablo Casals was asked why, at the age of 93, he still practiced 2 hours a day. And his answer? Because I believe I'm making progress. Well, I think that sums up the feeling of most elder artists. I mean, we are all still working. We're still striving. We're still seeking to improve our artistic abilities, and that makes us cultural game changers, as we were when we all started our career back in the, I don't know, 50s, 60s, 70s, whenever you started. I started mine in the early 70s, and right up until now. I mean, Canadian artists get better with age. There are the famous ones, Christopher Plummer, who won an Oscar at the age of 82, was nominated again at 88, and was still working on a new production of King Lear when he died recently at the age of 91. Margaret Atwood topped the bestseller lists at 80. Frank Gehry is redefining city skylines at 91. Alanis Abomsawin won the Glenn Gould Prize at the age of 88, but she couldn't attend the award ceremony because she was busy shooting a new film in northern Quebec. They're among the most celebrated, but they are by no means exceptional in continuing to work well into their elder years and create great art. I mean, you know, artists don't retire. It's not in our DNA. And this was reinforced actually in a study that was conducted a little over 10 years ago. The Senior Artists Research Project was a multi-year study into the lives of senior artists. It consisted of surveys, studies, and focus groups. And Senior Artists in Canada was the result. It was the report that was created as a part of this project. Now, coincidentally, I was living on the West Coast at the time that this survey was being done, and I was invited to take part in one of the focus groups, little knowing that I was helping to plant the seeds for an organization that I would be running one day, because the study ultimately led to the founding of the Canadian Senior Artists Resource Network 10 years ago. Today, we just call ourselves CSARN. The SARP, Senior Artists Research Project findings, indicated that Canadian senior artists have many of the same concerns as artists in the general population, or people in the general population, you know, civilians. Housing, finances, healthcare, social isolation. But what makes us different, and I think unique as a cohort, is that we still want to work, we still want to create, we still want to be those cultural game changers. And 95% of senior artists are still working, according to the Senior Artists Research Project report. 76% say they never plan to stop. And as a result of those findings, CSARN was founded to support and encourage elder artists in many of these areas. I mean, we don't do housing, we leave that to you folks at PAL, but we do help with some of the other areas, and I'll kind of touch on that in a minute. Mainly, we encourage and support mature artists in their desire to keep creating. Now, here are a couple examples. Paul Solz, he died recently at the age of 90. He recently starred in a series called My 90-Year-Old Roommate, and he was doing guest roles in episodic TV as recently as last year. Paul's TV and film career spanned 70 years, and he also did some quite memorable stage work. The CSARN artist community has grown to more than 2,000, and I want to share with you a message that I received from one. This strikes a little closer to home for you folks. Joyce Devlin is a visual artist from Ottawa who was one of CSARN's first mentors. She wrote me a few years ago to tell me about her latest project. She said, "I've been commissioned to paint the portrait of the present Chief Justice of the Federal Court of Canada here in Ottawa. I think it's a bit funny, or not." She said, "I can hardly use my arms anymore. So we've rigged a pulley with a sling to hold my arm while I work, and I must say, it's going quite well. I'm not happy with old age," she said. And she told me at the time, this was about 3 years ago, that she was 85 and a half. And I've noticed as people get older, those partial years, those fractions become very important again. So I'm guessing that by now Joyce must be about 88 and a half. She says old age gets in the way, but even so, I still manage to create enough new work to hold one studio exhibition each year. So there's little time for even growing old if one could afford to do so. Cultural game changer. It's that kind of determination and devotion to art that I find time and time again when talking to CSARN artists. And it applies to all denominations, visual artists, writers, actors, singers, dancers, and musicians. One of the things we learned from speaking with CSARN artists is the desire to share their accumulated knowledge and skills. As one actor said to me, "I want to share this stuff before I forget it." And that's what led us to start our mentoring program in 2014. It's now in its 8th year. And in that time, we have facilitated more than 100 mentorships involving more than 300 artists in one-to-one and one-to-many mentorships. We've paid out more than $300,000 in mentor fees and mentee expenses. You're looking at the images of some of our mentors and their work. I point out the ones who are currently working with us, starting with the top left hand of what should be your screen, Bernard Poulin, who is an Ottawa artist, very, very highly respected. He's done a couple of mentorships for us and is just beginning another one. And coincidentally, it is coincidental that he is also married to the chair of our board, retired Senator Marie Poulin, who has been our board chair for a couple of years, but Bernard was doing mentorships long before Marie joined us in the picture. Some of the other artists who on this screen who are still mentoring for us, top center, Jenny Lauzon, second from the left in the middle, Sheila McCarthy, who's done, 2 or 3 mentorships for us now. And 2 places to her right, in what looks like a broken piece of glass, is Ted Robinson, who's another Ottawa area visual artist. He mentored for us a few years ago. Bottom left, second from the left, is Adam McGoyan, great filmmaker who's currently mentoring. And 2 places to his right, Nigel Bennett, a wonderful actor from Stratford, and he is doing a mentorship for us right now as well. Our program started in Ontario with funding from the Trillium Foundation. So many of our mentors live in Ontario, more specifically in Toronto. As this map shows, we are expanding across the country. I'll just show you a couple of, you'll see that there is one mentorship in the Ottawa area right now. That's the one that Bernard Poulin did. And Julie Hodgson is with us today, and Julie just finished a mentorship too. So we did have kind of 2 Ottawa mentorships overlapping. We have one mentorship with a mentor in Vancouver mentoring someone in Montreal. We have Nigel Bennett in Stratford mentoring an artist, a young actor in Calgary. We've got one in Winnipeg, and most of the others are in the GTA. But we also have one mentor in Toronto mentoring an artist in Vancouver. So we are gradually expanding our mentorships across the country. Our program we consider to be unique in that most mentorship programs start with the mentees, who then have to go out and find a mentor. We start with the mentors. They sign up on our website, which is CSARN.ca, and we enter them in what we call our mentor match listing on our website. And here's an example. You'll see that it lists the available mentors in each artistic discipline. The artists who are looking for a mentor can browse the site. They get in touch with us and say, I'd like to work with number 36. And as you can see, for privacy reasons, we don't list the names. We contact number 36, see if they're available for a mentorship, send them the application and resume of the mentee. If the mentor is interested, they get together, they decide how they want to proceed. And the mentorship can last anywhere up to 10 months, for which we would pay up to $3,000. And then we also pay the expenses of the mentees for up to $1,500. We've partnered with the Cale Chernin Awards to provide mentors for their winners in both media and theater divisions. And the winners are all mid to late career artists who are creating new works. Now, here's a recent example. Sonia Gamiti, who lives in Montreal, won the Cale Chernin Award in 2019. We arranged a mentorship between her and Guy Madden, great film maker from Winnipeg, one of our first long distance mentorships. The result was Outside My Window, which has been chosen for the Chicago International Dance Film Festival and the Solo Arts Film Festival as well. What you just heard was a sample of Wake the Sigh, a collection of works by 19th century female composers. The artist is Emma Rush, who's a classical guitarist from Hamilton. Emma is currently being mentored by music industry executive Sandy Graham, who has arranged for Emma to perform a showcase at a festival in Sweden in September. So Emma is well on her way to being a cultural game changer. Wake the Sigh, the reason I show this as an example is that Wake the Sigh was produced by Kirk Starkey of Quartetto Gelato. Kirk was recently mentored in studio techniques by veteran CBC music producer Ron Searles. We love it when our mentees end up working together based on what they have learned from our cultural game changer mentors. So that's our mentorship program. But senior artists tell us they want to keep learning. So we provide other programs as well. We have One of the ways we help them do it is with our annual conference, Maintaining Creativity. We have presented 5 editions so far, with the 6th coming up this fall. The first 4 were presented live in Toronto. The very first one was Maintaining Creativity, Turning Challenges into Possibilities. We presented it in Toronto in April of 2016. Our keynote speaker that year was Paul Hoffert, the co-founder of Canada's iconic band Lighthouse. Our second conference, Maintaining Creativity 2 Reinvention, featured a keynote by CBC host Laurie Brown, who told us about a book that helped her survive the corporate culture at the CBC. The book was called Orbiting the Giant Hairball. And I think it became a bestseller again after she told us about it. Maintaining Creativity 3 Relevance in 2018 led off with a keynote by R.H. Thompson, who was in the midst of playing Matthew Cuthbert in the wonderful series Anne with an E. And in 2019, we presented Maintaining Creativity 4 Inspiration with a keynote by the wonderful Sheila McCarthy. Last year brought a major change to our conference. For years, we'd been wondering how to broaden the reach beyond Toronto, make it possible for artists beyond Toronto to attend the conference. Well, COVID-19 provided a perfect opportunity. Sad that it had to come to that, but it gave us a chance to expand our reach by presenting our first virtual conference. Maintaining Creativity V for both 5 and V for virtual. It kicked off last fall with a keynote presentation by the great Tom Jackson. By the way, all of our keynote speakers went on to become part of CSARN's artistic advisory, except for Tom Jackson. Instead, Tom joined our board, and he brought a wonderful breadth of ideas and inspiration to our discussions. MC5 allowed us to go almost literally coast to coast to coast. We had attendees from Happy Valley Goose Bay in the east, the Gulf Islands of BC in the west, Yellowknife in the north, down to San Francisco in the south. We even had one person join us from Madrid. We were so enthused by the reception that we're going to make Maintaining Creativity a virtual event from now on, and I'm happy to announce this year's keynote speaker. Dr. Daniel Levitin, Professor Emeritus in Psychology at McGill University, also the author of 5 international bestsellers. The most recent is Successful Aging, and that is what he's going to be talking about. Talk about a cultural game changer. Daniel says, some people who seem to age more successfully than others can thank genetics. Some of it's just plain luck, but there are things all of us can do starting at any age to tilt the variables in our favor. He says, I will talk about some of those things, and we'll touch on how music and art can improve our lives at any age. So we'll be presenting Maintaining Creativity 6 in 3 chapters, each lasting about 2 hours. Daniel will be speaking at chapter 1 of Maintaining Creativity 6 on Monday, October the 18th at 1 p.m. 1 week later, on Monday, October 25th, chapter 2 will be a discussion on art and social change. And we'll wrap it up on Monday, November 1st with a discussion on ageism and the other isms in the arts. We're in the process of lining up guest speakers for chapters 2 and 3. Registration will begin in mid-August. And like all of our programs, the conference is absolutely free. Now, let me tell you about some of the other programs we use to help our cultural game-changing cohort continue with their artistic work. Most artistic work, as you would know, is done alone. Even if you're a performing artist, a lot of time is spent learning your part or just waiting for the phone to ring. And as I mentioned about the Senior Artist Research Project report, social isolation is a concern for many artists, especially of our age, which is why we developed the CSARN salons. CSARN hosts gatherings that we call the salons. It's a chance to meet other artists of our cohort, find out what others are up to, and perhaps learn new ways of creating. While we are all in various forms of isolation, we moved the salons online. The CSARN on salons are an online meeting of members of the CSARN community of artists from across the country. It's also an opportunity for me to get a sense of the pulse of our community, to find out what they're thinking. And I will get back to that in just a few minutes. We began offering seminars in late 2014. We've now offered more than 20 of them. The most recently was a webinar on publicity. We've also offered movement webinars, intellectual property, artistic archiving, social media, computer skills, government services, and we're going to be presenting kind of new versions of all of those in the not too distant future. Healthcare is an obvious concern for senior artists, as we discovered in the Senior Artist Research Project report. Healthcare Assist and Connect was designed for AFBS, the Actor Fraternal Benefit Society, by Bayshore Healthcare. And we offer it free of charge to our community. All you have to do is sign up for it. And it brings a range of healthcare advice for members and their families. Like I say, it's absolutely free. And I encourage you to have a look at it on our website at CSARN.ca if you'd like to become part of it. It is well worth it. The Visionary Artist Lifetime Award. Talk about cultural game changers. This is an award we began 2 years ago with a grant from the Distinguished Mature Artist Fund at the Toronto Foundation. It's given to an artist whose life encompasses one or both of these criteria, whose exemplary work, produced away from the spotlight of the moment and without fanfare, has been a notable source of inspiration to other artists, whose visionary contributions to the arts and broader communities have been made in under-acknowledged and behind-the-scenes roles. We have doubled the award to $1,000 this year, along with a statuette. The first winner, by the way, was Patty Gale Peaker, who helped found PAL Toronto and was the person who made Supporting Cast a reality. The second winner last year was John Laberg, who was the Director of Operations for the Canadian Opera Company in the, well, I think it was in the late 80s, and he is directly responsible for the development of SIR titles, which are now used around the world. Nominations, by the way, for the current Visionary Artist Lifetime Award are now open on our website. Just click on the link Visionary Artists at CSARN.ca and you can nominate somebody for the award. Nominations are open until the end of August, and the winner will be announced during Chapter 3 of Maintaining Creativity 6. Now, I want to end with an excerpt from our third annual conference, Maintaining Creativity 3 Relevance, during one of our salons a few years ago, and this is getting back to what I was saying about the fact that I get to find out what artists are thinking and concerned about through the salons. One of our community members said, I want to find a way to stay relevant in the 21st century while remaining true to the ideals that got me started 40 years ago. Well, right away, I heard the theme of our next conference, relevance. And we had a panel discussion that featured an old friend of mine, Tabby Johnson, who is now a CSARN Board of Directors member. Here's what she had to say about relevance, and it's just going to take a couple of seconds for it to spool up, so bear with us.
So I actually did write something. I revel in my reverence. I am revealed through my reverie. I am real. I reel in my creativity to cast once more upon the waters of chance. I am a lance to pierce the shroud of ageism. I am young before my time. I am dancing in time. In my mind, I am dancing. Don't you see me? And this is what 65 looks like. I am full of life, of dreams, of laughter, of sobs. I am full, but there is always room for dessert. Atrophy creeps in when I'm not looking. A crepey neck, a sagging jowline, a descending bottoms, that arms that shake all by themselves. And still I revel in my relevance. I stay abreast of current events till they bore me. Then I change my stroke and side stroke till I tickle my fancy. I talk out loud, Bluetooth or not, I embrace my veins crisscrossing my thighs. I harbor no envy nor jealousy of youth. I was there, I was fabulous. Or so they say, as if to say I'm what, not anymore? My stories, my songs, those echoes of past, resound again and again in the future. I write my words to dance out of my mouth. I weave the cloth that will cover my stage, for there's magic still there, hidden between folds of life, of flesh. I add up the stats so laboriously gathered as proof that the struggle was real. I add up the years like I add up the stars that I wished upon once upon a time. See? There will always be dragons and hell pits to vanquish. There will always be stars in the sky. The world needs the crone and the oracle to understand through fear or grace. In our stories on our screens, large and small. And so again, I repeat in case you forgot, poof, I revel in my relevance. Now what I need to do is, can I hear y'all say, I revel in my relevance? I'm done.
Tabby Johnson, who is still a cultural game changer. She is doing a Fringe Festival show in Toronto this summer. So that's the CSARN story, pretty much. As to the future, we are working with the government on a way to honor elder artists. I hope to be able to tell you more about that in the not too distant future. We are working to combat ageism in all its forms. Ageism, as you probably know, is the last acceptable form of prejudice. The UN has declared this the decade of healthy aging, but the government and the media portray us as a cohort of invalids and retirees, either going south for the winter or living in care. And we know that's not the case for most of us, certainly not us artists. Our community is filled with artists who are determined to keep creating. They tell us that they don't like having to fill out the last box. You know, when you fill out a survey or a form or something or other, and it asks for your age, and it's like 18 to 34, 45, the last box is 65 and over. Many are worried about where they will live, how they will live, but they tell us they intend to continue living their lives with what one artist said is ferocious intent. Thank you very much for listening. And
thanks very much, Scott. This was really, and I still have some power left, so to speak.
I'm glad to see you, David.
Even at my age. we all still have power left, even though that we're over 55 or whatever age we're at. Really, really invigorating discussion, Scott. Really enjoyed it. Tabby's statement of revel in my relevance. This sounds like a wonderful slogan for a t-shirt that anybody over 60 or 65 should be wearing.
That's a great idea, actually, David. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, sure.
Does anybody? Oh, sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in case.
Does anybody have any?
I think you could do a mask, maybe the revel.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully we won't need one of those for too much longer. But
No, I think it's good to take advantage of the moment.
Sure.
It's kind of in your face. T-shirts are very subtle.
Yeah. Good point. Well, I love the idea of the t-shirt. I think we'll have to look into that.
Right.
Yeah. And that if you wanted to share that video, by the way, or let others know of the video, it's available on our website as well. You can have a look at it.
The mentor-mentee program that you're running is really fantastic. I mean, that is so wonderful. I mean, it ties in with the intergenerational aspect. I mean, it almost sounds like something that, you know, Pal Ottawa could consider, like, once our building is up and functional, to have actual, you know, sort of on-site mentor-mentee relationships set up, and the actual program running out of Pal Place once it's up and running. So that's really, really encouraging.
Well, please, call me anytime if you need some ideas. We can't claim to have invented the process. We basically borrowed it from Carfax in Saskatchewan. They've been doing a mentoring program for years, and we based ours on theirs. I wasn't around when the mentoring program began. It was a year before I started, but it's an idea. It's out there, and it's for anybody to use. So
yeah, it's
Julie has some experience with our program, because Julie was a mentor in our CSARN program.
That's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
a
That's
wonderful
right.
program, yeah.
And we hope to get you involved in another mentorship in the not too distant future, Jill.
That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
really like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I was a mentor at, I think I told you, Scott, at Carleton University. They have a practicum program in their art history. And so I was a mentor to a student there in 2019, and it was great. It was a great, I love doing it. I think it gives me a lot of pleasure, and it makes me realize how much I know, which I sometimes forget, you know?
Well, that we sometimes, or often probably, don't give ourselves enough credit for what we do know
Yeah.
and the things that we have accumulated over the years, and the breadth and depth of knowledge that we have as elder artists. On our website, I started off, I was kind of fantasizing that, 40,000 years ago, where was the first cave art discovered? In Indonesia? I think it was 40,000 years ago, a hunter etched something on the side of a cave, and that was the first cave art, maybe the first art. And 5 minutes later, he was probably teaching it to someone else, and that was the first mentorship. I think as long as there has been art, there has been mentoring. It's part and parcel of who we are as artists. We want to share what we know with the world, and especially with our younger colleagues.
Mhm.
And they're thirsting for it. So that's why
And
the
it
program.
opens so many doors for them,
Mhm.
as well as continuing my connections with,
Well, as I said,
with the community. So
the mentorship that I mentioned with Emma Rush, the classical guitarist, the fact that because of Sandy Graham, who is a mover and shaker in the music industry and the recording industry, because of her connections, Emma is going to Sweden, hopefully this fall, to perform at a showcase festival. So the contacts that our mentors such as you, Julie, have is truly remarkable, and they always pass it on to their mentees. And so many of our mentors also say, I learned so much from my mentee, because it's a two-way street.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like, we always hear about the relationship between, children and their grandparents, not that we don't learn from our parents, but, that sort of two generations removed from young people, there's something about that relationship that is different. Let's say when you're 20 years old and you're linking up with somebody 65, 70 or older, there's just something very unique about that relationship. And I don't know if the attention span is better, or kids are more interested, or, that older generation is more respected or mysterious, or maybe it's all of the above, but it certainly, I think, really, really helps in establishing that bond between a younger person and an older person in that mentor-mentee relationship.
Yeah, I think it's, as you said, it's all of the above. And in many cultures, the grandparents are the ones who raise the children while the parents are off working.
That's right.
And so young people just learn from their grandparents and other elders to start with. We've kind of gotten away from that so much in certainly in North American culture, certain North American European based culture, because we move around so much. I mean, when I grew up, my parents in the Toronto area, my grandparents were on the prairies, so I didn't really. I saw them once a year, but I didn't really learn from them until they retired and moved to Toronto. And my grandfather was a choir master and church organist, and my grandmother was a pianist. So I learned from both of them, but not until I was older. So yeah, it's a wonderful relationship, grandparent to grandchild, and the synthetic, for want of a better word, version of it, which is mentor to mentee.
Scott, I was just going to ask you, maybe I missed it with all the noise here coming from Richmond Road, but so how is CSARN funded? Is it funded through membership fees or government funding?
No, we do not charge for any of our programs. back in the day when we were doing our conference in Toronto live, we charged $11 for the conference, but we also fed them lunch and breakfast. So it was just to help offset that part of the cost. But everything else is free of charge, and we rely on primarily private donors. We have some corporate funding. Our mentoring program is now sponsored in part by Power Corporation. Our annual conference has, up until now, and including this fall, been funded by the New Horizons for Seniors project, federal government. So we do have, and we've had a couple of Canada Council grants, but primarily it's private donors.
So you do have a membership. It is a membership organization?
Well,
like they're
we don't call it a membership per se, we call it a community of artists.
Okay.
But we welcome anyone to sign up. You can do that, again, you do that on our website. And what that gives you is regular information on what we're doing and when we're doing it. You would get the updates on when our conference is being held, when our on salons are being held, and you can find out more about the Healthcare Assistant Connect, a program that I mentioned, which is just such a great program. Now you can find out about that without signing up for it, but you might as well. Like I say, it doesn't cost anything. We don't sell our membership lists.
Yeah.
We keep that all very confidential, and it's just so that you can stay in touch with what we're doing.
Excellent.
How do you administer the mentorship program? Do you have a paid position, or do you use volunteers for all these activities as well?
I actually run the program with support from a committee of my board of directors, and yeah, there was a paid position at one point when it was first starting up, but once it got rolling, we felt that I could just do it as part of my job. So I accept the registrations from both mentors and mentees and put them together when I find a match. And we've got, as I said, our mentor match listing, which has about 100 artists on it right now. And those are the mentors. And then as the mentees come in, we say, aha, number 37 or number 36 or whatever. We'll work with this artist, as we did with Julie. Now, I think, Julie, if I recall correctly, you brought your own mentee into the mix.
Yes,
but, yes. And we do that sometimes. We encourage that. In fact, it makes my life a whole lot easier if the mentee and mentor come together. So, and it all depends on the funding. We keep matching artists up until we run out of funding, and then the next fiscal year begins and we start all over again.
Actually sounds like fun.
Yeah.
But,
are the artists are they visual artists, or
everything?
Does it include including writing?
Yep.
And,
we have playwrights, we have poets, we have novelists and nonfiction writers. We have visual artists of all kinds, jewelry makers and carvers and oil painters, and then we have singers, dancers, actors.
Wow.
Yep.
I was gonna make a comment, and maybe it becomes a question, but during this pandemic, it's interesting, the idea. I was just part of a graduation ceremony for mentoring people in the foreign service. I'm a partner of somebody in the foreign service, so I've always done work overseas in half a dozen different countries. And I have to say, then we try to keep in touch with people, but encouraging young people or people of any age to find somebody that's inspiring or to connect to. And I think during this pandemic, I was thinking survive and thrive. Survive or thrive is the saying for any organization or artist, because it's been such a difficult time. People have literally, it takes a strong man to say you need help. And many times the strong man doesn't ask for help and then goes under. Whereas people that just put their hand up and say, look, I need some help here. it's not always about making a living. I was talking to David about this. It's about finding purpose, finding a connection with the spirit. And it's a very ephemeral, interesting thing that you might be doing here, which is it goes beyond making a living. It's about finding your purpose in life and serving. So the idea of service on one end, and then people who get lost. And I think many artists and art organizations get lost, and they need to find a way to connect, because I feel like we're operating in these little separate areas that if we could only find a way to bridge each other, it's so much more helpful. I find isolated, you feel weak, but with one other person, you feel strong. So it's really great what you're doing with the mentorship and art. Is it artists and art organizations, or is it just individuals?
You mean, do we work with arts organizations, other organizations? Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're collaborating with the Dancer Transition Resource Center, AFVS, and the Actors Fund, AFC, on what we're calling a summer course on transitioning for artists within, and sometimes artists who want to transition out of the arts, although we encourage them to stay in, obviously, but we're providing mentors for that program.
It does seem that, I hate to say this, but after this pandemic, the obviously making a living is a nail, is unfortunately the nail that's hitting you in the head constantly. So the idea of how to survive this period and find a way to connect and continue as an artist. But I said sometimes it's not about the money, it's about finding a connection. And do you find that do people get lost as whether they're young or old? They just feel like, I had an artist friend in Toronto, it was a beautiful painter, and she said she's kind of gotten isolated and her work is like group of 7. But she said, I feel like I have to just stop painting. She was starting to do poetry, and she said she was going to burn all her work. And I was like, wait, please don't do anything, because people have gone through darkness in this pandemic and they have made some very odd decisions, and it's been very painful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. It's tragic.
It's like a counseling center. So to me, it might be nice to have a hotline or something. Can anybody call in and say, hey, I'm in crisis, I need help? Do you have anything like that?
We do. Our Healthcare Assistant Connect is designed for exactly that. Now, the program itself does not do the counseling, but they can put people in touch with counselors or other services. Either community services or private services. That's one of the many aspects of the Healthcare Assistant Connect program that we offer. And it's like everything else, it's absolutely free of charge. And it is a hotline that operates 7 days, I think it's 7 days a week.
What's your number?
You have to sign up. You have to sign up for it.
Oh, you sign up for the health program and then you become accessible. Is that what you mean?
Well, if you sign up for the Healthcare Assistant Connect program, you automatically become a member of the community of artists.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Are you?
Scott, we have a list. I'll have to check our website, but I'm certainly going to check our website and make sure that your organization is on there in terms of resources that our membership or non-membership can connect with, because and that's why we have these presentations from different organizations to really get the word out. And rather than just people looking at a link, we're hearing a presentation from people like you and give a very broad, can provide a broad understanding of your mission and mandate, and hear directly how you can change people's lives. So it's really wonderful to have you. Does anybody else have any other questions as we come up on the 3 o'clock?
Is there a documentary film?
One last question.
Is there a documentary film on the organization? Has there been anything done?
Sadly, no. We've talked about it. We've talked about it many times. Not about CSARN itself, but about some of our artists. We do have a couple of small videos that our artists created about some of our senior artists, but we are working on other other things that would be along those lines. But it's, it's all about the funding and the time. I'm kind of a one and a half person organization. I've got a part-time.
I know what it's like. I will tell you, I'm the co-founder of the One World Film Festival, which is all documentary the past 30 years, but I'm always trying to make a bridge to serve the community. So in a way, sometimes the idea of doing a small pilot, like just a few minutes that captures what you've just said. So I may talk to you about that, okay? Because
Great.
just think that it's also, it doesn't have to be flashy, a star-studded video. It can just be a very pointed presentation, which gets, obviously everything you said today is fabulous, and it's just about getting it across in a punchy graphical way. Okay.
We can do that.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's
Yeah.
do it. Okay.
We can do anything basically.
We can.
So listen, Scott, we'll let you go. We're up on it's 5 to 3. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to present. We really learned a lot, and we will be posting this recording up on our PAL YouTube channel for broader viewing. And I want to thank you. This is wonderful. And
my pleasure. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
oh, thank you. And we'll probably have you back at a later date.
Okay.
We'll be getting some more funding. So we're not going to the racetrack or anything like that. But
I don't think they're open.
You're right. Well, but yeah, we're really looking forward to having you back at some point. So
My pleasure.
anyway,
Anytime.
Thank you again. And to the audience, you will be receiving a survey form to allow you to fill out your comments about today's presentation, and as will the people looking at, as will all the registrants for this presentation that didn't necessarily show up. And the next presentation will be.
Can I ask Scott, are you in Ottawa or Toronto?
I'm in Toronto.
Oh, okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
So the next presentation will be Friday night, 8 p.m. with vocalist Danielle Laberg. And Danielle is, I heard her personally. She's very, very good. So she'll be performing on Friday night at 8 p.m. And if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, please do so. Just go to our website and subscribe. Just check into Eventbrite and you'll get a free ticket. So thank you very much to the audience, to Scott. Have a wonderful day. Be well, and we'll see you again.
Thank you all.
Scott.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.